Hi everyone, welcome back to the Candid Book Club. From left to right, we've got Mimi, Tanya, I'm Jess, this is Linda and Oma. So if you follow us on any of our socials, you'll know that we are heavy readers. We read a lot throughout the whole year, so when the time comes for us to choose our most favourites and our least favourites, it's always a daunting task. But somehow we've managed it, and we're here to share our favourites with you and some of our ones we didn't like so much. So we're going to start off with Tanya. I feel like this year I've not read a lot of books, but the ones that I have read have been really, really good. So my favourites have been Playing Games by Huma Qureshi, All My Mothers by Joanna Glenn, People Change by Sarah Jaffrey. Yep, Jaffrey. And As Long as the Lemon Trees Go by Zulfa Katu. I really enjoyed Playing Games because it wasn't, normally I really enjoy romance novels and it wasn't anything to do with that. They had elements of it, but not too much, mainly about sister relationships. All My Mothers, it was just such a sweet book about finding mothers in different colours. Was that the one? I really like this one as well.
That one's like, I was so shocked by that.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, whatever, Mimi. Yeah.
I'd take it credit.
Yeah.
I'd take it credit for one of those. Yes.
That was our first book club. This is
Yeah, it was incredible.
with the author, and honestly, it was so dynamic. The author had a notepad and pen, like being like, oh my gosh, like this is what you think. Okay, let me write it down. But yeah, don't sleep on that book.
And As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow, it was such an amazing book about the Syrian Revolution. Again, heartbreaking, but it does have a happy ending, which was good for me. And then People Change as well. This was a romance novel, but more to do with like she got bullied when she was in school and discrimination and racism. But this one was a really great one. And then my least favorite was Beach Reads by Emily Henry. Oh. Why? It seems I don't know how to put it in a nice way without being. I read 2 of her books. I read Happy Place and Book Lovers, and I thought they were really good. They were really sweet. This one I just felt like was the same trope, the enemies to lovers. But I've read it so many times, I'm just bored of it.
Fair enough.
So
I didn't like her other book, by the way, Happy Place. We read it for Bookfest this year at Waterstones Piccadilly, and oh my gosh, what a slog.
I didn't mind it. But when you read this one, you think that one was such a amazing book.
The joke was that people came to that event saying that Beach Reads was one of her best books. So, like, the standard is off. Sorry, I'm not going to be reading any more. I'm not going to be reading any more Emily Henry books. But yeah.
So Linda.
Okay, so my favourites this year were 2 memoirs, actually. In My Mother's Footsteps by Mona Hajar Halaby and Safia Sinclair's How to Save Babylon. So I'll start with this book. This was a recount of a Palestinian Christian's story of her heritage, tracing her mother and her grandmother's footsteps in Palestine. They had to flee because of the Nakba, and then just the story of like understanding the family's really rich history. And as a result, you understand a lot about the Palestinian landscape. So I just love this book. It just taught me so much, and I love books that teach me. So this is one for your bookshelves. And then the other one that I absolutely loved was Safia Sinclair's How to Say Babylon. I heard the author speak about this at like the author's sort of showcase event, and she's so charismatic. And we went to see her speak to another author at Brixton Library not too long ago, and oh my gosh, just love it. It's about a story of a Rastafarian girl who breaks free from Rastafari, and so talented, like the kids, and they just break away from the mold and all sorts of things. And oh, guys,
Anyway, I can't wait for these to be my favourite books next year.
Yeah, and I was reading it while I was like travelling through Jamaica, which is where all of it is set, so it just felt so vivid for me.
Yeah. And Safia herself, like, she's so freaking cool. She's even more stunning in person. Yeah. Like, I was fangirling so hard.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, so hot.
And then my 2 least favourites, like, I had to remember to keep them for this video because they were gonna go. But The Middle Daughter, I just didn't like this. Like, I just know. You know, when you're like, okay, I'm reading it, but I just didn't like the tropes and book and stuff like that. I can't even remember, guys. Like, honestly, I just felt like, ew. Wow. Let me read this blurb.
The fact that you can't even remember is a bad sign.
Yeah, do you know what?
Yeah.
Middle child. It's the middle child syndrome.
Oh,
right. No, okay. And she makes some really whack, rash decisions and stuff like that. Leaves home, and then gets with this terrible guy who pretends that he's a man of God, ends up being really abusive and weird. But the decisions she makes are just so messed up that you're like, I can't believe that this is a story. Like, I just didn't believe it. And then without dwelling on too much, Someday Maybe, I just didn't find the book compelling or as convincing as it was meant to be. And it's about a wife who found her husband who had died by suicide. And which obviously is super sad and super devastating, but it just didn't come across to me. Right, so that was that. Sorry.
So you can find all of our reviews of these books and so much more on all of our socials and just more on our YouTube channel too. So don't forget to like and subscribe to all of our things for a lot more hot takes like these. So let's move on. Oma, what's on your list?
Okay, so I will start with my least favourite, just to mix it up a little bit. So it's Send Nudes by Saba Sams. And you'd think it would be spicy content. It is not. That's not the reason why I picked it up. The reason I picked it up was because I just saw Saba Sams and I thought, oh, okay, sounds like a person of colour. Let me read it. Realised it's short stories, even better. I'm trying to get into short stories after reading Homa Qureshi's, which I absolutely loved. This was a huge disappointment. I did not connect with a single story in here. I didn't understand the point of a lot of the stories. There was no real message. It wasn't conveying anything. It was about like this woman who is on like a dating site and she's like matches with a guy. They start talking and he's asking for nudes and she's like a plus size woman and she's like conscious about it and she's umming and ahhing and then she sends a nude and then she just deletes the app, deletes the guy, blah, blah, and that's it. So it was like, what was the point?
Like good themes, not very well executed.
I wouldn't even say that was probably the only one that had a decent theme. The other ones were just like one girl who's like 16 with like an older boyfriend and she's like living with, oh God, I can't.
16. Unconvincing.
Yeah, honestly, let me just stop there.
Tell us about your best.
It will turn into a rant. So my best, I have picked 2. So I've been a bit more decisive than Tanya with her 4 favourites.
That's true.
But I'll start with The Beauty of Your Face. So this is written by Sahar Mustafa and it's a Palestinian writer and it's basically about Palestinian immigrant parents who moved to America, her sort of journey and how she becomes the head teacher of an Islamic Muslim girls' school. And then there's a school shooting that happens and then sort of the effects of that. So that was amazing. It's so touching, so brilliant. It sort of has elements of Palestine, but that's not really the story here. It's more about the immigrant story. I loved it. Cried. And then there's Much Ado About Nada. Okay, so
She loves this one, guys.
I loved this book. Okay, so it sounds like Shakespeare based on the title, but it's got nothing to do with that. It's actually based on Jane Austen's, what's it called? Persuasion. It's based on Persuasion. And what I love about Uzma Jalaluddin, the author, is that she constantly rewrites the Jane Austen stories, but with a Muslim modern twist. And they're based in Canada because she's a Canadian writer. And I just absolutely love it. It's young adult, but it's stuff that I wish I had to read growing up. What's beautiful is that all of the Muslim characters are very halal. So even with like the dating and stuff, like it's not about like premarital sex and like, you know, dating and hiding behind their parents' backs and creeping around and having rebel phases and all of that type of stuff. And what I like is that a lot of not normal, but like I guess a lot of regular Muslims can relate to this kind of story. And I just, yeah, as I said, I wish I had more of this growing up, and I just love the characters. I was there reading it until like late night, and I'm like squealing to my husband, like, oh, it's so good, it's so good. Like interjecting and explaining bits to him, and he's just trying to play his game like, oh yeah, sounds good. But yeah, you can tell my excitement. I really, really loved it. So that was one of my highlights for this year.
Well, there we go. So I'm going to put myself in here now. I think it's my own turn. So my 2 favourites are As Long as the Lemon Trees Go, which Tanya's already talked about and we all have waxed lyrical about. It is a beautiful, emotive story that is educational, is incredible, is so eye-opening and changing, and it's should be on everyone's to-be-read list.
And the book club with the author was so good. So good.
So, yep, that's number 1. And number 2 is Ayobami Adebayo's A Spell of Good Things, which is another book that is weirdly emotional and really makes you feel something in your gut as you read it. It's about these two different stories sort of coming together and it's slowly intertwining in their lives. And it's just so incredible to have a story from 2 perspectives in the same place at the same time and have their stories wind together. Is perfectly written, is beautiful. I can't fault it. It's absolutely faultless.
And the ending, was just, didn't see that coming. That was also actually one of my favourite
book
reads. Yeah. And our book club was, again, amazing. Not trying to promote our book clubs or anything, but,
but we are. So you should join us for the next one. And then I guess I've got 2, I'm going to call them least favourites because they're not terrible, but they weren't for me, I think. Number 1 is, this is a proof copy, I'm afraid, so I'll show you the spine. It's called Close to Home by Michael McGee. I can see that this would be an important story. It's about sort of a young boy growing up in Ireland with sort of the weight of the troubles on him and his family. But it's very dark, heavy and depressing with no real turnout or conclusion for me. It's really drug-fueled and very sad and just not particularly in my vein of enjoyable. So, and then for my other least favourite, I'm going to be very controversial and talk to you all about Yellowface, because this was the book with the highest demand, the highest hype, and for me had absolutely zero payoff. The second half of the book completely just hurtled down a cliff, and I had no idea where I was at the end or why I'd even read it in the first place. So there we go. Thank you, Yellowface.
Thank you, but no thank you.
So Mimi, that just leaves us with your most and least favourite.
Well, to wrap this up then, so I've got 2 faves of this year. To back up what Tanya has already said about playing games, this is one of the best books you will read, full stop, and deserves to be celebrated. And you all need to have a copy of it on yourselves. Huma is just one of the greatest writers. Absolutely love her. Yeah. My other favourite, which I've been hanging on to as my favourite since last year when Linda and I were lucky enough to get proof copies of this, is Dust Child by Gwen Fan K Mai. And it is a fantastic story about Amerasian children, so the children that resulted between the American soldiers and Vietnamese women during the Vietnam War. It's fantastically researched, so authentic, so many intertwining stories with no cliches, no kind of tropes. It's beautifully, beautifully done. And Quay Mai is a poet of a writer, so I cannot recommend Dust Child enough. Get it on your shelves as well as all her other books. And then my least favourite, surprise, surprise, is You Were Always Mine. I didn't even remember the title of the book. By Christine Pride and Joe Piazza. Full disclosure, you may have heard us talk about these writers before. As writers, we are not very impressed with as a pair. I thought I'd pick up the other one. I got 100 pages in, did not finish. A black baby abandoned in a park, or a white baby abandoned in a park, picked up by a black person, and apparently they were friends. Who knew? Don't bother.
Oh, God.
So there you have it, our unfiltered, unvarnished truth, our most and least favourites of the year. Join us. Tell us what you've loved. Tell us what you've hated. Tell us if you're looking forward to reading any of these that we've laid out for you today. So don't forget to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel so you can hear more from us at the Candid Book Club. Have a good one, guys.